Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here. Welcome to episode 143 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast, Restaurant Trends for 2021.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hey team, welcome back to the podcast. This is going to be a really interesting episode. We're going to be looking at the trends that we think are going to be big in the restaurant industry next year for 2021. Well, you've got to say, I've spent quite a bit of time talking to customers and really thinking about what it is that we're going to see, because we do this every year. We come up with our Restaurant Trends podcast. It's very popular. The blog article gets thousands of visits every year because, I like to think of the value that we create. But got to tell you, really, really, really tough job this year because 2020 has been a year like no other. So I think that makes our job a little bit more difficult. But what we're going to do is we're going to step through what's changed. We're going to step through how that has changed us. And then what we're going to do is hopefully pull out some really cool insights that are going to help you to run a more profitable or start a new restaurant in 2021. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about today, I just want to talk about a new initiative that we have launched for our customers, for those who visit the website, and for, of course, our Secret Sauce listeners. The big thing that we have seen, and so this is one of the things, is just the number of restaurants that have closed. Some have been customers, some have been prospects, some have just been reaching out to us for help as they go through a really, really, really difficult time. Is that this year, more than ever, marketing has been more important than ever. So we're a restaurant marketing company. We like to think that it's pretty important, but this has been, not life and death, hopefully not too often, but absolutely huge consequences for restaurants who haven't been able to get their fair share of the customers that they have. So they should be getting. So one of the things that we've done, and we've had some amazing insights out of this, is that the team now are doing just free, quick restaurant website audits. And we've got a little checklist. It's a cut down version of the checklist that we use when we're building a website, but it's just designed to give people some of those quick wins to help them get more traffic to their website. That's okay, but you can't go meeting payroll or paying your lease payments with people to your website. Obviously, the key thing is to turn those people who go to your website into people who are going to come into your restaurant or are going to place an order. Absolutely critical. So we've got a cut down list that we use, that we are just giving some people some really quick ideas. Often they are cheap or free for you to be able to implement with yourself if you're building your own website or with your web developer. The big thing, the key thing to remember, if you run a restaurant that has a vegan or a cuisine-based or a family-friendly or whatever the niches there are that you tackle, there will be people who will be looking for a new vegetarian restaurant, a new vegan restaurant, somewhere that they can go where they can get a gluten-free meal. What is a local Indian restaurant? All of those people, when they go to Google, they are going to go somewhere. They're going to find a restaurant. When was the last time you went to Google and said, hey, Google, what's a good Indian restaurant near me? Or are there any gluten-free restaurants near me? And Google came back and said, what? No, I've had a look and there's none. Just because you're not set up to tell Google that you're a gluten-free restaurant and have a process for converting customers who are looking for a gluten-free meal, that is, from Google's point of view, too bad, so sad. So you've got to be really thinking about this. This is going to be one of the big things that we'll talk about either at the end of this episode or in the start of the next one. Because those customers, they go somewhere. If you're in a tourist area, then the people who've got their Google Maps out, they're going to be finding every day. They're going to be finding somewhere else to go. If you're in a certain area, So it's Saturday today that I'm recording this. We had Indian food last night. We have spent thousands of dollars with our local Indian restaurant. Thousands of dollars. Now, there's a few of them. We've tried a few. We think these guys are pretty good. They do a pretty good hot vindaloo. It's not super hot, but it's pretty hot. I've been driving past restaurants and gone, oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know of that Indian restaurant. Now, they could be amazing, but never even appeared in our search. We're happy, we're comfortable with what we've got now. We do stray a little bit, often cuisine. Sometimes we'll try a little bit of a different Indian restaurant just to see how things are going. But I think you've really got to be understanding that there are people, particularly I'm the kind of customer for Indian restaurants. I'm one of those ones that we're pretty much Friday night Indian. How many of those customers do you need to build a sustainable, successful restaurant? And got to tell you, in 2021, that is going to be only more important, being able to find those customers, those loyal customers, and turn them into repeat customers, because that is going to be the backbone of the revenue you need every week to be able to be successful in your restaurant. So have a marketing for restaurants. We've got it on the front page. Put your details in. It's no obligation. There's no contract or anything. It's just a quick chat with one of the team, and they'll go through and they'll come up with some ideas. And we haven't done one yet where the team haven't been able to say, I would fix this, this, and this, and that will increase your search rankings, or I would target this because that's not actually coming up in Google. So I think it's pretty low risk. And definitely, I know the customers that I've spoken to after they've gone through the process have said, yep, we've got some really good ideas out of it. So we will talk restaurant marketing specific changes that are going to occur. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. The first thing, straight up, out of the box, and you know what? I'm actually pretty proud. I've gone 7.5 minutes, and I haven't mentioned COVID-19. As you're listening to this, please remember that around the world, so many people, so many states, so many countries are having very different COVID-19 experiences. And I know this has been one of the big issues that we've had with our support team is, we have to ask really silly questions. Are you open at the moment? Are you allowed to open? Are you allowed to have dine-in customers? What are the restrictions? Are there restrictions on the number of people you can have in dine-in? What is it that's going on in your local area? These are huge things. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the generalities about COVID-19 and what effects that they have. Because what you need to do, I want to give you a list of things to think about. You can then think about how that plays out in your area, your local area, the area from where your customers come from, and then more importantly, your customers. This year for me, it's been quite interesting. I've been doing a little bit of restaurant marketing, not much. I've actually been helping out with the response in Victoria for COVID-19. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that we've been doing some work supporting communities, and we work in what's called local government areas, so council areas. And when you really delve into some of those council areas, you find that there are marked differences around on a suburb by suburb basis, the languages that people speak, the communities that they formed, the socio-economic impact, the work that they do, all of these things are really important to understand from a marketing point of view, because that's the foundation really of what your marketing plan is going to sit on. There's no point targeting people who speak Mandarin if you don't have any of those people in your local area. From a COVID point of view, the things that we have found is profound changes in some parts of the market. So straight up, the first thing is economic. In Victoria, we've seen over 200,000 people lose their jobs. People who had work in March, they now no longer have jobs. That is a huge tragedy. If that is your target market, those people, the people who have lost their jobs, and it's certain sectors that have been really badly hit. Hospitality, anyone who had customers who worked in hospitality, probably not doing too good now. Anyone working in events, anyone working in those industries that's been really fundamentally hit by many of the restrictions. So, and those restrictions, very different around the world. So in Victoria, we had an 11-week lockdown. So people pretty much couldn't leave their house for 11 weeks. They were able to get out and do a little bit of exercise. They could go and purchase essential food, but that was it. 11 weeks. We had a couple of programs that were designed to help people during the national response. So we had two programs called Job Seeker and Job Keeper. Job Seeker was additional money for those who were unemployed. Job Keeper was for businesses that had a really big decrease in their revenue. They were able to get extra funding from the government to keep people on so that we could minimise the number of people who were losing their jobs. Now, that stimulus is being wound back. A big thing that we've got in Australia is that many of the banks, I think all of the banks, gave a moratorium on repayments for home loans until March next year. Now, that makes it a really big difference. But of course, there are many people who've lost their jobs, just over 200,000 just in Victoria. Many of those people aren't going to be able to make their repayments. So they're being really quite frugal, knowing that, they've only got, we're halfway through December now, they don't have long to get a job. So the banks are just capitalising that interest. There's going to be a huge amount of properties that are going to hit the market in March, we think. That is going to have a huge economic impact. So your target market, how has it affected them? And the important thing to remember, people with government jobs. Well, in Victoria, they all went home. They've worked from home. They've been working from home for, probably 9 months now. And in Victoria, they're not back until January. They haven't been able to travel. They haven't been able to go out and eat. They haven't been able to go to events. They have got a lot of money and they're quite keen on spending it. So talking to some of the people that I work with in government areas, lots of disposable cash, and they're very, very keen to get out there and spend that money. This creates an opportunity for you. The impacts are very different. Talking to restaurants in New South Wales, the lockdown hasn't been as fierce there. Western Australia, almost like there's been no COVID at all. They locked their borders really hard. They had very few cases to start out with, and they have just continued on pretty much ignoring COVID, having no COVID cases. Really quite a good place to be. Now, compare and contrast. So in Victoria, we've just come out of our huge second wave. Talking to restaurant owners in the United Kingdom, fundamentally different. They are still getting more and more cases. The United States, exactly the same. A fearsome second wave with many people losing their lives every day. So an incredible tragedy because you've got so many people with so much going on in their life. They're losing parents, they're losing friends to COVID, and they're still trying to fight to keep their business alive. And that economic story, that plays out in an individual restaurant basis. So I know restaurants who said, there's no way that we can do this. We're not going to go to delivery food because our cuisine just doesn't work for that. We're going to shut down. There was government support to support them in that. And their landlord, which is, if you're not doing anything, that's the key expense that you've still got going. Some of those landlords came to the party and were really able to help them out so that they were able to hibernate their business. Now they're coming out a little bit like the sleepy bear, really keen to get into it. They're super hungry to grow their business now that they're able to get back to it. So in Australia, really starting to open up. I know that that's not the case around the world, but as you listen to this, that time when we start to open up, that will happen. And if there's not a lot going on and you've got the mental bandwidth to be able to handle it, you want to be starting to think about the Great Reset, the evolution of your business as you come out of COVID. Because this will be the overarching dominant mega trend that every restaurant's going to have to go through. Now, one of the things I find really interesting, so we've talked about the economic impact. There's some of those other things. So obviously mask wearing is a bit of a thing. It's a huge thing in Australia. The government said, hey, everyone, wear a mask, and we all just did it. I've got to tell you, straight up makes a huge difference. It's really quite sad to see people struggling with what is just really good public health advice, struggling with that in some places around the world. In Australia, we closed our borders. That has had a flow-on effect in that there are now not a lot of people who are working in hospitality. We've seen venues now offering sign-on bonuses, retention bonuses. I noticed that one place in Western Australia is offering $1,000 to successful applicants on commencing their work. And if they stay for 3 months, there's another $2,000 bonus for them. This is a really big cost that people are going to have to deal with. Now, this is being driven by the lack of international travel into Australia. Very different in the United States as well. But I think we are going to be seeing it a little bit more difficult in some places and very difficult in other to hire great staff and to be able to retain them. This is going to have to be a big focus. You've got restaurants that they're spending an extra $3,000 to retain someone over a 3-month period. That's an extra $1,000 a month. Rough numbers, that's about $5 an hour to your wages cost. Now, if you're lumping that down for everyone in the team, straight up, that's going to make a really big difference to your bottom line. Prices are going to have to go up. And we're going to talk about pricing soon because this is going to be another one of those things that's absolutely huge. But you'll need to be thinking about your food costs, your wage costs, obviously, your rental, all of these sort of things. All of those costs, they're going to become only more important next year because of the amount of turmoil in the marketplace. And there are going to be big winners and losers, I see. So hiring and retaining great staff, that is going to be something that we're going to see the winners really spending quite a bit of time to be able to be successful. I think people are going to have to be, because throwing money at a problem like that, I don't really think that's the solution unless it's really easy for you to be able to pass increased costs onto your customers. And that is probably not going to be easy to do. So we've got some big changes economically. We've got some changes within the industry. We'll talk about food a little bit further down the track, but there's some interesting things going on there. The last thing that I want to talk about from a COVID point of view, because this does impact in a wide range of areas that you're going to be operating, the psychological impacts. And I think this is really interesting to see. So in Victoria, a really clear example of the psychological issues that we saw was that before COVID, there was very few people who wore face masks. I'm talking about in Victoria. Obviously, when you go to Asian countries, because of the fact that they've got experience with respiratory viruses, much more likely to see people wearing a face mask on things like public transport. In Victoria, there were, some of those people started to wear a mask in Victoria. So that was interesting to see. And I'm talking about, in March as it was becoming a lot more talked about in the media. But we had mandatory mask wearing for a long time. The only place that you didn't need to wear a mask was if you were in a motor vehicle by yourself, or you were with the people that you live with, your bubble, that we call them bubbles. So for me, that was just my family. So that was the only place I didn't have to wear a mask. Now, the interesting thing was that got relaxed so that you didn't need to wear a mask outdoors. And that was a few weeks ago now. I still see quite a lot of people wearing a mask outdoors. As they're walking around, they've still got that mask on. And that is because the psychological impact of what has happened this year has been profound for so many people. That is going to have a big impact on you and your business. It's going to have an impact on the willingness of people to take their wallet out and to purchase food from your restaurant, whether it's for takeout, whether it's for pickup, whether it's for dine-in. There's lots of nuances in there that you'll need to be thinking about so that you can understand how the landscape has changed, understand how some of your customers have changed, and what it is that they're going to be looking for. I know in our business, across our group, we've got a few things. We've got an IT company. We've got a very large travel website that we run. And obviously, we've got marketing for restaurants. Across our team, some really big psychological issues have played out, either with our team or within the families of our team. And I think that it's really important that you are out there as a leader in your business and asking people, how are you going? And you know what? I've been really upfront with it. How is your psychological health? How are you going? What are the things that you're worrying about? Because we've needed to do that. And even with some of the things that we've done, we've still had some problems with it. And I think this is really important that you need to recognize it within your own team, particularly when you're looking to retain staff. Some of them may not be playing their A game. It may be because they're dealing with lots of other things going on in their lives, which you might need to make some allowances for. Or is there some way that you can help them deal with those problems? I know I was really upfront with our team. We were open and honest about what it was that we wanted to do, how we were tracking, how profitable we were, even how much money we had in the bank, just so that people could understand what it was that we were doing and feel, a little bit more comfortable. The team were worried. There was a lot of people who were really worried, and I wanted their job to be one less thing that they had to worry about. We've still got a long road to go. We don't know. Obviously, vaccine rollouts have started now. We don't know how long they're going to take. We don't know how successful they're going to be. And then you've got the economic impact after COVID. So there's a lot of things for a lot of people to be worried about. You need to be thinking about your customers. You need to be thinking about your team. Now, most importantly, you need to be thinking about yourself. Because if you fall over, as the leader of the organisation, there's a lot of pressure. There's an incredible amount of pressure on restaurant owners. And, let's face it, whether you're back of house, front of house, there's an incredible amount of pressure in hospo as it is. We've spoken to chefs in the past about the trouble with mental health in the hospitality industry. There has been nothing that has really helped hospitality mental health this year. It has only been worse, much, much, much worse. The people who worried a little bit about money now often had, huge reasons to worry about money. The people who worried about their staff now had huge reasons to worry about their staff, and same with the customers. All of the things that you have to worry about, they just become a lot worse. They compound on each other. It sometimes seems like it is hopeless. That's why you need to be getting out there. You need to be talking to other restaurant owners, develop that support group, try meditation. I find meditation to be really helpful. Just that little bit of time to center yourself, to get a little bit more perspective on the problems that you've got. And since I started meditating, I have very few amazing ideas while I'm meditating. But the interesting thing is later on in the day, or I might be driving into work, you just reframe a problem and you think, wow, here's a great way of us handling that. And I think that, and there's research to suggest that increasing mood, better long-term health effects, and it helps with that creativity. And creativity is one of those things that so many restaurant owners have really dug really deep to be as creative as they can to find those extra revenue streams, to find those ways of keeping their restaurant on track. So we'll leave it there. I've got probably 2 more episodes on the great trends, but the biggest trend, the mega trend, the trend that everyone's going to be focusing on, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in New Zealand, Victoria, or Western Australia, wherever you are around the world, next year is going to be the great restaurant reboot. Things are going to change. Some things will change and gradually come back to normal. And I'm talking some things will be months, some things will be years. Some things are going to be changed fundamentally forever, I think, particularly when you look back in history. The changes that we've seen from within the economy, with huge numbers of people losing their jobs or not earning as much as they could have, the number of people who haven't been able to go out and do something exciting like they would have, meaning they've got a lot more disposable income. But most importantly, the profound psychological impact for everyone who has lived through this as a shared experience is something that everyone needs to be thinking about. And you will need to be looking after yourself, number one, so that you can look after your team, so that your team can look after your customers. I think that is really important. I'll include some links to some of the references that we've got, particularly the interviews that we did with Sean around his journey with mental health. Yes, it's pre-COVID, but I think it helps to put in perspective just the journey that some people are having. Because I think, talking to some people, they're going on a journey that they never thought that they would go on, that it was a journey that other people took. And that journey down where they're not on the psychological well-being path. They've taken a little bit of a meander into psychological illness. So much of it this year, so many people are there, right there with you, and hopefully you can draw a little bit of solace, a little bit of inspiration out of talking to some of the other people and finding out about their stories. We've got lots more to come in the next 2 episodes. So we'll be coming up with the trends, whether the vaccine's done and dusted by halfway through the end of the year or not. We've got lots of great tips. We're going to be looking about leasing, what's going to be happening there. We're going to do quite a bit. We're going to talk quite a bit about online ordering, because online ordering has been the second wave for so many restaurants. Everyone who could only do delivery, many of them jumped onto Uber Eats, Just Eat, Deliveroo, whoever it is out there. And many of them really sadly died quite quickly just because of the fact that there was no profit in there to be had. We're going to talk about those food trends. They are really interesting, some of the things that are happening. And I know that for us, we'll be eating something very different at Christmas time, something that we wouldn't normally eat because of COVID, going to be part of the Great Restaurant Reboot. The changes in business, and then we're going to bring it all back home with the changes in marketing, the things that I'm really passionate about. And, we're not going to be talking about, you need to run a Facebook ad, you need a website. We'll talk a little bit about that. We will be talking about the key meta things, the things that sit above the marketing, or, I would even put them in the strategic marketing type area that we are starting to see people have really good results with, the kind of things that we're helping our customers with. And they're working. Profitable hospitality. That's what we're all hoping will be the mega trend for next year. It won't be, but it is out there for some of the restaurant owners out there. So stay safe. Hopefully, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're listening to this, it's not all too dark and gloomy. There is the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train, the train coming down the tunnel. We are getting there, and we are seeing that. So yeah, chin up. We are getting there, and, we'll have a few more tips next week to help you with that. That's it. Stay safe. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.